Information about the new megas that are dropping in July and August was just dropped, and let me tell you, two words come to mind. That's power creep. Oh my god, megas just keep getting stronger and stronger. So in this video, we'll review all of the information you need to know about the megas, including a bunch of information that we figured out in part courtesy of the Royale API website. I'll have a link down below, and a big thank you to Full Frontage, whose footage I'm using with permission in this video. You can check out his channel, linked below. Let's start with the fast food tank. I mean, everybody loves the tank, and the fast food tank's gotta be goated, right? It does 750 DPS and 12,000 hit points, but the more important thing that this thing does is actually a slower rate of fire, which means, sure, it's 750 DPS, but it's one big shot, which means you can come awfully close to like one-shotting an enemy's units. Probably not exactly a one-shot, but once you add in some DPS from other ranged units in your squad, you are an ambushing threat on the map that is, I think, unparalleled, except what could we actually compare this to? It's got more hit points than an LT Gray and way more DPS. Probably your best comparison point is actually a fused tank, which is already in game. So if you like having a fused tank in your squad, then you'll really like the fast food tank. Now, there are some pros and cons here. The upside of the fast food tank is that you don't have to actually find a tank, which is cool, except there's a downside, which is that unlike a fused tank, which if you take enough damage, your tank girl will hop out and you can get into another tank if you manage to survive, your fast food tank pops once it dies. So the 12,000 hit points, that's it. I mean, that's it. It's still a lot of hit points, but you can't actually dismount and find another tank like you can with the tank girl. But because this unit is ranged, you still want to get some tanky frontline into your squad to protect your backline, okay? So I don't think this replaces having a tanky frontline unit, but I do think speedsters will be extremely valuable in this squad so that you can, in fact, fast ambush an unexpected enemy. And of course, because this is a ranged unit, the Archer Queen is just insane. You've seen me talk in prior videos about the Queen tank combo. Here it is all over again in a mega form, which is disgusting. Now, arguably, you'll be very happy to see a fast food tank show up if your squad is in the process of being busted. The rate of fire is a little slow, but it's probably pretty intimidating to someone. They might back off. You'd probably rather see a magical Shelly because her AoE blast is just very, very intimidating to most people. But honestly, there are very few situations where you'd be sad about a fast food tank. I don't know if I can even name one. Fast food tank will be available in August, so let's talk about something that's available coming up sooner. That's in July. It's the Resort Royale King. He's got that beach flare with 250 DPS and 9,000 hit points. He is extremely similar in his stats to like a dragon chicken. He's got slightly less DPS, slightly more hit points, but instead of giving you a couple speed boots, he's going to give you 3 elite royal recruits that will fight by your side and walk around with your squad, which is disgusting, and he will re-summon them a short time after they expire. Now, we actually know what elite royale recruits do because of the Royale King. That's already in game. Now, if it holds true that these are the exact same royal recruits, the elite royal recruits that you can summon with a Royale King, we're looking at 71 DPS per recruit and 3,600 hit points per recruit. So you're looking at a combined DPS and hit points of the Royale King plus his recruits at 19,800 hit points, which is insane, and the combined DPS of only 463. So not that much DPS coming out of the Resort Royale King, but he's there to soak up damage, and he does that so insanely well. And instead of having all that hit points on himself, he puts it into 3 units that he can resummon, which is kind of like healing, but obviously not really. So he will probably have great synergy with the Barbarian King, assuming that Barbarian King will buff the summons, since they all do close combat damage. I also think he'd have great synergy with a Battle Healer if they improve the health of your summons, but I don't know that they will. And if you start the match with the Resort Royale King, your goal will be to draft really high DPS backline like a Colt or a Penny because you've already got your frontline sorted out. He's not the worst pick, actually, if your squad is actively getting busted by an enemy. but is especially good if you have an opportunity to run away after your recruits get busted, and then he can resummon those. So if you're able to stall for a while, yeah, you'd be pretty happy to see him show up if your squad's in the process of getting busted. And honestly, the enemy might turn the other way. I mean, if they already totally overwhelm you, you're just dead. But if it's close, he could be a big difference maker as a late game summon. Actually, I'm very hyped about the Resort Royale King. He's probably one of the strongest megas overall, just because putting 3 things into your squad and then resummoning them is really gross. Now let's contrast this to the other mega coming in July, that is the Sunburn Barbarian. He's got 400 DPS and 9,000 hit points. If we compare this to a Fused Barbarian, the Fused Barbarian has 280 DPS and 5,600 hit points. So he is way more tanky than a regular Barb. And he does slightly more, I mean, not slightly, a moderate amount more damage, okay, than what a regular Barb does. But he also becomes elite after a short time. And this is very interesting. How long is a short time? It looks like from Full Frontage's video footage here that it's about 25 seconds, and you can watch the circle complete around his health bar, indicating exactly how long it's going to be. But what does elite even mean? And in this context specifically, for a Sunburn Barbarian? Well, we know what it does for a regular Barbarian. I'll have a card up in the top. If you haven't watched my video about why the Barbarian is really OP, I break down exactly how he works. Again, courtesy of the Royale API website, we know that flipping elite means you get a 77% damage boost. That is a 20% hit speed boost and a 47% damage boost overall, which is how you get that 77% number. If this holds true for the Sunburn Barbarian, you're looking at 708 DPS. That seems really solid overall, and there's really no frills on this guy as far as I can tell. In fact, this guy is so low frills that I almost wonder if flipping elite doesn't mean more for this mega perhaps, but it's really hard to know that offhand. I will say there is one other thing that happens when a unit flips to elite, which is that it heals all the way back to full health. And it looks like that may be true also for the Sunburn Barbarian. Now, I don't think that healing 25 seconds into the match is really offering you very much, but if you're in the process of getting busted, it could be good, maybe, to then flip elite and heal if you're surviving the 25 seconds. Hard to say, and I don't actually know if it heals or not, so that's something we're gonna have to figure out. Now, if you do get a Sunburn Barbarian, I don't think it changes my draft strategy all that much. He'll serve as a tanky frontline, so maybe you deprioritize that a little bit and just focus on your backline. That way he will rush in front and soak up damage where possible. I still generally like to have lots of frontline units so that maybe they block the shots of things that are coming my way. It's honestly, though, not going to be the best pick if your squad is getting actively busted. You'd probably rather see something like Magical Shelly, or even the fast food tank. But if he does heal when flipping elite, that could change the calculus depending on how poorly it's going when you're getting busted here. Which brings us to the Street Trader. Street Trader does 250 DPS and 8,500 hit points on this sucker. It is extremely similar in terms of punch and survivability to a Dragon Chicken. It's technically, I think, slightly less DPS, but for perspective, a Fused Trader does 200 DPS and 5,600 hit points. So DPS not far off from a trader that is fused and way more hit points. So you can kind of think of him as a better trader. He'll give you 5 gems for every 10 coins you collect, which is obviously better than 3 gems for every 15 coins you collect from an unfused trader. A fused trader, I think, would do 9 gems for every 15 coins you collect. So it's actually like shockingly similar to a fused trader and what they're doing, except unlike a fused trader and unlike a trader at all, he's not going to heal your squad. So people forget that the trader actually is a slight healer, and he's not going to offer that at all. Now, if you do start a draft with a Street Trader, you've got a couple ways to use him. You can either go the full PvE monster value, where you try to bust lots of monsters, get their coins, or you go a PvE harvesting value route. If you go for monster value, you obviously need a draft supporting DPS. If you want to go with the harvesting strategy, drafting right away a Greg or a Mavis is a really good plan. And with either strategy, drafting a Goblin right away is actually kind of insane. Going for a Fused Goblin off rip with your Street Trader seems like it would be very powerful. Now, if you end up getting a Street Trader while your squad is in the process of getting busted, that is a tragedy. You should re-roll that if you have the opportunity. You might just be mashing the button to draft whatever comes out of that chest though, and it just is what it is. But if you're not actively being busted and you get the Street Trader because you're in last place, he's actually a really, really good pickup because he'll let you play the outside of the map for value. And hopefully those extra gems really are a difference maker and can propel you at least into like 5th place, so you keep your spree running if that's a thing you care about. I've been covering all the information drops as soon as I have access to that information, so consider subscribing if that's the sort of stuff you want to see. And also a big thank you again to Full Frontage for your video footage and the Royale API website for giving us the critical information that we need about how units actually work in the game. And if you still haven't seen my video about the Barbarian, it's one of the best commons in the game, if not the single best common. Debatable, but check the card in the end screen. Alternatively, if you're looking for more info drops, check my other card, which is going to be about the Bandit.